Hello and good morning. We are the Travel Trolls. This is Travel Trolls TV. Right, we're doing something not a bit different, but, well, it is a bit different. You remember the Ipswich videos we gave you, showing the sights of things people probably don't even know about, telling you stories about things even people who in Ipswich didn't know about? Well, this is very similar. Now, that video took me a day of research. How long have I been researching this place? This is Bury St Edmunds.
Days and nights and
Days
hours.
and nights and hours. I would say two and a half days I've been researching this. I've put a lot of effort into it. Full days. What was it yesterday? 8 in the morning till midnight or something.
Yeah.
So I've put a lot of research into this. It's a one-off. It's simply because we live here. We live here and I want to give something back to the community of Bury St Edmunds. I want to show them places they've never seen before. So, we've got 30 different sites to go to around Bury St Edmunds and 75 places where pictures have been taken over 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Photographs have been taken. I want to take pictures of before and after. And I'm going to put it into a few videos and see what happens. Yeah, we were having a chat about views, where the channel's going, what's going on, what exactly am I aiming for? Because Mazzy's got her own views, and she's scared to tell me about them sometimes, aren't you? Yeah. Thinking I might be offended, and I'm not. But we are both concerned about the amount of comments and the amount of likes on his videos. Lack of. Big lack of. Because if we don't get likes and we don't get comments, we don't, as channel doesn't grow. It's as simple as that. So please do like the video and comment. I think when you get 1,500 views and you only get 26 comments, it's disgusting. You know, that's all we ask. Please like, please comment, because it helps the channel to grow. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move on. This is Bury St Edmunds. This is literally 200-300 yards from where you live.
Yeah.
And I only found out about this 2 days ago, and it really excites me. This is an old Saxon graveyard. So up here you've got Westgate Gardens, is it? Westgate Gardens. Now they started building this in the early 70s. In 1972, they came to this side of the river. Believe it or not, this is a river. Which river is this?
Linnet.
River Linnet.
Yeah.
It is. I've seen streams bigger than the River Linnet. That's rubbish. Anyway, they were building over here and they came across here, and as they were digging, they started finding bones. And they got in touch with the archaeologists. Archaeologists came running in there, droves, thousands of them, millions of them came to this site. Archaeologists. It were on the internet. Well, they didn't have internet in them days, did they? They were on the phones to each other. Hey, there's some bones being found in Bury St Edmunds. And they had like a big... It was like Glastonbury for archaeologists. They all came here and started digging. And it turned out these weren't these weren't modern graves. These were graves from the 5th to 7th century. They were not cremations, they were all proper burials. And it was Saxon burials. Some of them were pagan, some of them were Christian. And in total, I believe they found 68 different graves right here, right where we stood. So this must have been a really important place at some point. Well, I can tell you which point, the 5th to 7th century. So one grave out of all these graves stood out more than all the rest. It was grave number 62. Yep, that's how they recorded it. Grave number 62. They didn't have a name on it. They didn't care who he was. He was known as grave number 62. His grave was full of goods. It had weapons, you know, bits of weapons, old weapons from the 5th to 7th century. And one thing, it had a very important thing, which was a bucket, a glass bucket. Okay, imagine a glass bucket. It was in a Roman style. And it went to the museum, the local museum, Moyses Hall, where we've already taken you. And eventually it got sold It went to auction. It got sold for £116,650 in 2014. So 2004. So that came right from this spot, a Saxon graveyard. Did you know you lived next to a Saxon graveyard?
No, that's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It were a beautiful bucket as well. I've seen a picture. If I can find one,
Yeah, I'd
I'll
like
put
to
it on
see it.
so people can see it. But this is literally around the corner from where we live. We had no idea, did we?
No.
Although your gardener said something, didn't he? He says,
Yeah, my gardener mentioned it.
your gardener knew about it, and he says, oh, you want to go metal detecting down there? Well, I wouldn't.
I don't think that's going to
I
happen.
don't think that's something you're allowed to do.
No.
But yeah, that's site number 1. We've got at least 30 more places to go. Come on, let's
Come
go.
on.
It's going to be a long few days. This ain't going to take us a day. This is going to take us a week. Beautiful day. So this is a bit of a sad story. We're at the Dove pub. I don't know the name of the road, I'm sorry. You can see it behind me. But on the 30th of October 1825, there were a bit of a sad story here. A guy called Alfred, who was the landlord, Alfred Russell, he got up one morning and his daughter made him a cup of coffee. Sorry, it was a cup of tea. I got it wrong. Sorry, hold my hands up. It were a cup of tea and it was 8:15 in the morning. She gave him a cup of tea, he drunk it, and then he says, I'll tell you what, I'm going up to bed, I can't be bothered today. Went upstairs, wasn't seen again. His daughter Rebecca, she carried on doing her chores. Then it got to about 11 o'clock and her brother came round. And she says, go ask him if he wants a sandwich. So he went upstairs, knocked on his door. Do you want a sandwich, Dad? No, no answer, no answer. Anyway, it comes to opening time, which was 5 o'clock in them days. Opened up at 5 o'clock and he didn't come down. So she went up, banging on the door, and she's getting no answer. Well, it isn't Rebecca. So she goes running round to her uncle's house. I don't know if it's over there, or over there, but he lived nearby. And her uncle, who was his brother, Alfred's brother, came running round, banging on the door, wasn't getting an answer. So kicked the door down and found poor Alfred in there, hung. He hung himself in his bedroom. There were a chair kicked aside and he hung himself with a noose up there. And apparently his wife was in some kind of asylum, going a bit mad, and it was really upsetting him. Her mental health was just deteriorating. So he was really sad about that, and they found a bill in his pocket for £5, which £5 in 1825 will have been a lot of money. He owed some money as well, so his debts and his wife got on top of him, and he hung himself right in there, which is a really sad story. But let's move on, come on. Okay, now we're on Albert Crescent. And there was a lady who moved here in 1951 called Enid Mary Innes. Now she died in 2009 in a nursing home around here, but she lived in one of these houses here on Albert Crescent. But the story isn't really about Ms. Enid, sorry. The story isn't about Enid, it's about her dad. Her dad was called Stanley Innes. Now Stanley was a big part of bringing the Scouts around, you know, inventing the Scouts. He started his own Scout club in 1911, and he was a big part of how the Scouts came to be formed. Now, he went to World War I and he got polio, and as a result of getting polio, his legs got very spindly, and he could hardly walk. By spindly, I mean spidery, you know, very thin. And because of that, became a song. Now, you've heard of this song, you must have heard of this song, it's a little nursery rhyme. Incy Wincy Spider climbing up a spout. You've heard of it, haven't you? This is all because of this guy, because he had spidery legs. And he invented the Scouts. They came up with this song, Incy Wincy Spider climbing up a spout. One step, two step, no, I can't even remember how it goes. I was thinking one step, two step and a tickly under there. That's a completely separate thing I used to do with my daughter. Incy Wincy Spider climbing up a spout. What did Incy Wincy Spider do? Did it go one step, two step and... It was. And then he fell down the drain pipe and died or something. I don't know. But Incy Wincy Spider. The guy got an OBE for his services to the Scouts, for forming the Scouts, helping to form the Scouts. And he was like a big hero. So, yep, next time you hear Incy Wincy Spider climbing up a spout, just remember, this is the street where his daughter lived. So I've just got back in the car, not knowing the Incy Wincy Spider rhyme. But luckily, we've got Mazzy, and Mazzy does know the rhyme. Take it away, Mazzy.
The Incy Wincy Spider climbing up the spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. And out come the sunshine and dried up all the rain. And the Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the spout again.
What did he climb back up for?
Don't know.
What a waste of time. He's just been washed down a spout and it's raining and he climbs it up again. Climbs up it again.
To get to the
He's just
top.
going to get washed down again, isn't he? Didn't have much of a brain, didn't Incy Wincy Spider. Personally, I'd have stopped going vertical, I'd have started going horizontal and found somewhere better. But hey, yep, that was all because, that song is all because of the guy, Stanley Innes. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Missing someone with all your heart. Missing someone with heart. How much you miss her. And you.
So now we're going back to World War II. Now, in World War II, Britain was preparing for a big invasion by Germany. They just drove us out of France. We came back and we thought, they're going to get us. Let's prepare. So every town, city, village, everywhere all over Britain was preparing and trying to defend their towns. Bury was no exception. And they'd have roadblocks. This road would be blocked if you wanted to show them that. They would block that road to stop any tanks, any German vehicles coming into the town. And one way of doing that was to they obviously put barricades, put things in the road. One of the things they put in was the Dragon's Tooth. So here is the Dragon's Tooth down here. 2 foot tall by 3 foot wide is what it says on my notes. It's like a pyramid shape, and what they'd do is, because this was a busy, used road, they wouldn't actually block the road permanently. They'd wait until an invasion and then they'd drag this out into the road and block it. And what that would do is, if a German tank is coming along, it would have to go over this. If I can try and demonstrate, it would have to drive over this, putting its front end up, and people over here on our side would be able to shoot underneath it where it wasn't armoured and kill the people inside. So that was the point of these. But the problem is, this is known as the Dragon's Tooth. What the hell are these over here? They're bigger, the same shape. It should be dragon's teeth. There's 3 of them. So all them notes are rubbish. It's not the Dragon's Tooth, it's the dragon's set of teeth. A full set of gnashers here in Bury to protect it from German tanks. Unbelievable. Why have they said tooth and not teeth? So now we're at Sicklesmere Road Jail. Now we've just made a right mess of this place because we're trying to take pictures. We have a picture from like 1880 and we tried to get a modern day picture from exactly the same spot as the 1880 picture was taken. And we've taken 2, one over there and one over there, and then realised it's a completely different building in a different part of town. We were doing the one on the phone from 1880 was the Guildhall in the centre of Bury, and we're doing the jail. Never mind, we have got one before and after from here. But this is the old jail. Now, the story from here is the last hangings. Firstly, I'll tell you the most famous hanging which ever took place here, and I've told you about this in Moyses Hall Museum. And that was of William Corder. If you remember the Red Barn murder, now that was like a world famous, one of the biggest murders of all time from its day. He was hung here. The last man to be hung here wasn't him, it was someone called George Cant. In 1851, he'd been to the pub with a woman called Lizzie, and he went outside with her. He came back in on his own, and he had muddy boots and muddy trousers, and everyone says, "Where's Lizzie?" He says, "Oh, she'll be back in a minute." She didn't come back in, and they found the body in a ditch not far away. He got arrested and they hung him. No one knows why he killed her, but he did. And then the last woman to be hung here, hang on. The last woman to be hung here was Catherine Foster in 1847. Now what she did is she got married to a man because her mum liked him. She didn't like him herself, but she thought, I'll marry him anyway to please my mum. And then she came for a day trip to Bury, and she quite liked it, and she thought, you know what, there's more to life than my husband, he's rubbish. I think I'll hang around Bury, I need to get rid of my husband. So she went to the shop, bought some arsenic, and put some in his dumplings, and fed him it. And he's really sick, and the doctor were called out, and the doctor's putting, you know, his instruments, all them things in his ears and that thing on his chest. Oh, he's not well, is he? He'll probably be alright in a few days. He didn't realise it was arsenic poisoning. Anyway, he died, and she'd have probably got away with it, would Catherine, if the next door neighbour's chickens didn't die, because stupidly she'd thrown what were left of the food out into the yard, and the chickens next door ate it, and they all died. So she got caught. They put two and two together, and she got caught and hung. Now, if she'd have done that 100 years earlier, she'd have been burnt at the stake. But because she did it in 1847, she became the last woman to ever be hung in Bury St Edmunds. Right here, behind this wall. Serves her right, doesn't it? Serves her right. So all hangings which took place in this jail happened in a certain place, and you seem to think you know where it was, don't you?
Yeah,
Would you like to tell everybody?
I seem to think it might be this tree over here.
Hang on, let me just get my light right.
Hang on.
There you go. You think it was this tree over here?
Yeah.
They actually hung them from this tree. Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Even more so because you said that tree earlier on,
Well, I
until
did.
I said it'll have been that tree because it's
Yeah.
much bigger and older. Bless you. Yeah, it looks like a very old tree, and I can imagine people being hung from there. I wonder how many people they hung, how many nasty people and how many innocent people died within a few metres of where I'm stood now. That's quite sad. Sad and good as well, because they deserved it. They did though, didn't they? So now we've come to number 1 Westgate Street, just to see a tiny little thing. Now, if you look up here, I have got some close-ups for you, I'll throw them in now. There's a tiny little bit in the flint which is behind some glass, and it's a hot air balloon. A hot air balloon with a little basket underneath it, and two flags coming out of it. And the date on it is 1868, and the initials, there's initials on there. There's a WSM. Don't know what they mean. Why is it there, I hear you ask? Now, the first odd part of the story is the house wasn't built until 1884. So the date on that is from before the house was built. So why? We just don't understand why it's there. No one knows the full story, so don't be expecting any answers from me. But I have got one little story about a balloon. Let's talk about the guy who built it. The guy who built it was actually a mason himself, Lot Jackerman, and he lived here. We've just been doing a bit of research on him. There's a big sign on the side of the house saying Jackerman Masons or something. He built it, this was his house, he lived in it, and he obviously put that in there. He was quite well known, was Lot Jackerman, because he did a lot of the building around here. And one thing he did is the Norman Tower in the centre of Bury. He did the restoration on it. God knows what year that was. But he actually saved a man's life. You know, someone was falling off the scaffolding they built, or ladders or something, and he saved someone's life whilst he was building it. So that he got a silver cup for that, so it was obviously something really special what he did. So not entirely sure why there's a balloon. It doesn't make any sense. There's only one connection with a hot air balloon and Bury St Edmunds, and it was many years before the date which is on that. It was in 1785 when a Captain Poole took off from inside the Abbey Gardens on a hot air balloon. I've got some pictures. They're not photographs from them days, obviously, but it's an illustration with thousands of people stood in Angel Hill in the square. Thousands of people stood in the square, watching him take off on this hot air balloon. Now, he went 27 miles, which took him an hour and 20 minutes in the hot air balloon, and then he got on a carriage and he came back to Bury and everyone were cheering him. He got back at midnight and he was like some big hero. So that's the only story about a hot air balloon. Whether that is connected or not, because that was like, 80, 90 years later, nobody knows. But yeah, just a nice, interesting little bit on a house.